Checking back in with Jason Michael Thomas of Urban Ag Indy. Jason, I have a question for you from a, well, potential viewer, but a Twitter friend, if I may. Andrew House, who I know he's a diehard Indianapolis city lover, and he's also like a super volunteer with Keep Indianapolis Beautiful, wants to know, why can't I ever get the yeast to get frothy or bubbly or whatever? And then in parentheses it says active dry.
So he uses active dry yeast?
Yes.
I don't know. That's really kind of confusing question, because I mean, both yeasts will work the same way, you know, I guess in scientific terms. It should get bubbly if you add enough yeast and you have the right mix of flour and water. So if he's following a recipe, I would suspect that his yeast is dead.
Oh, okay.
Because if you keep it in the cupboard or in the cooler too long, it goes bad.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. Okay, where are we at with the bread?
So yeah, once you, and I insist that everybody who's going to take this Yelp class needs to get a sourdough starter. Either start one for yourself, or you can find one, you can buy one from me on my website. But so I like to do the water and starter first. So in this recipe, I like to do pretty high hydration. This is going to be about 450 grams of water. Then I'm going to use just 100 grams of this starter. Should be about right. I've got a scale under here that I'm peeking at, so doing the tare function. If you guys understand how to use a scale, you really should. Once you get really nerdy about bread, you're going to enjoy kind of nerding out on it. It doesn't have to be perfect. That's 88. I'm going to add a little more. That's 102. I think we'll take it. So that's my scoop of sourdough starter. We'll put that over here. So I've got the water, and then I've got the, and actually I'm really kind of finicky about my water. This is artesian water from Flowing Wells Park up in Carmel. So I really like to use that instead of tap water. Then you can add the flour. So right here I've got around 500 to 600 grams of flour, and you can just stir it all together. And a lot of people like to wait to add the salt. I personally like to add the salt right away. A lot of people think it's important to, wait a half an hour. They call it auto leaves or something like that. Big fancy words. So really, you just stir this up until it comes together. And then I'm going to add 20 grams of salt as well. And I actually like to use this tool right here, little bowl scraper. So I'm going to grab about 20 grams of salt. I actually know about, with my fist, how much 20 grams in, because I've done it so many times. And then we just work this together. Can you guys see what I'm doing all right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, perfect. So really, you just got to knead it together, and I'm just folding it in on itself. And I really like these plastic dough scrapers because they take the shape of the bowl, and then you can just fold it on top. And I literally have nothing on my hands. There's no batter sticking to me right now.
Is it possible to overwork the dough?
Absolutely. But this method is a way that I want to teach people who are beginners. It's a method that's called no knead. So that means you don't have to do a lot of work on it. That's why it's really the easiest way to start making sourdough bread. You get your sourdough starter, and then, you just have to learn to wait. I mean, once you get this bread put together, you don't have to bring it together a whole lot. You just want it to be, somewhat homogeneous, So, and here, it's coming together nicely. I can use my hands on this. You can see it's coming together like a nice ball of dough. And it's a little sticky underneath. It's just a little drier on the top. Now I can just leave it in the bowl and cover it with a towel at this point. So I take my towel, I'm going to cover it. And I like to sometimes make these towels damp. Helps it to not dry out. And you can literally just leave it on the counter to basically, maybe it's called a bulk fermentation. It's kind of a hybrid really, but you let it ferment over time, and then you have to learn to recognize at which point it's ready to be shaped and baked. And really, with the no knead method, shaping can be minimal to non-existent. So, and really the next step after this, for example, I've got one right here, the magic of television right here. This is one that has been fermenting for some time, and now I can pull this out of this bowl and shape it a little bit on my countertop. So I've got this little bit of, I don't know if you see this kind of granite thing here. Nice little circle of granite I like to work with. So from here, I can create surface tension by working the dough a little bit. and then you can set it in your refrigerator to cool. They call that retarding the dough. And then it has a little more surface tension so that you can develop what people like to call spring. So that means your bread gets really light and fluffy when you bake it off. Oven spring. So many words you guys have to learn when you're learning sourdough, right?
Exactly. Well, that's why you're having this class, right?
Right, exactly. So I'm just kind of tucking the bottom underneath it. You see how it's getting tighter? Mm-hmm. It's too bad we're not in the studio. We could actually see a little more of a close-up. But as I do this, and you can do this with your hands, but once again, I'm liking these little bench scrapers because I don't have to get my hands dirty while I'm on TV. Right. So you see how it's coming together now? Mm-hmm. Kind of got a nice little tight membrane across the top, and you want to have it not really rupture. You want to have it not break. So there you go. Now I can set it back in the bowl, and I can put it in the refrigerator proof. And basically from here, once it gets to where I want it, I mean, I could literally bake that off right now. But retarding it in the refrigerator might help it give just a little more oven spring, so that it goes up instead of flat.
Uh-huh.
The interesting thing to talk about is people always, they feel like they're going to fail when they make bread. And failure counts on a number of levels. Like, is it flat? Did your loaf come out really thin like this? Or are the bubbles too big inside the dough? Or are the bubbles too small? The truth is I think failure is kind of a misnomer because it still tastes really good when it's done.
Exactly. It may not be Instagram worthy, but it's still going to taste great, right? So we can go learn more about the sourdough showdown, throwdown, JasonMichaelThomas.com.
Yeah, and you need to get one of these bread bakers because it also really helps the oven spring.
I bet. Look at that. That's amazing. Give the gift to yourself. Rebecca Graves, awesome. Hey,
help me by designing this thing.
Thanks for taking the time. I love the quarantine beard. It's coming in nicely.
Thank you very much. Take care.
All right, you too. JasonMichaelThomas.com. We got the link on IndyStyle.tv.